I just don't want to.
No, on Kavanaugh.
That somehow we've solved this dilemma for you. I don't believe that. I don't trust things coming out of the ether here at the end. So I don't. I think that'd be an insult to her.
Thank you, sir.
See if Peter Doocy was walking with Senator Graham. Yeah. Obviously, he's frustrated about the timing of this and where it's all dumped at the end.
That's the big difference, because Christine Blasey Ford, when you hear her opening statement, she did everything right. She submitted a letter to her local congresswoman, Anna Eshoo, before Kavanaugh was even appointed, was nominated by the president, and was basically saying, before you go down this road, I want to put out this information. There's not a doubt in my mind she believes this happened. I don't know that it did happen, but she believes it happened. Some of these other stories, I mean, take a look at the Julie Swetnick story, the latest story about the gang rapes. You go to 10 gang rapes, wouldn't you say maybe after 3 or 4 gang rapes, maybe you'd have said, I think that's enough. These parties aren't working for me. In addition to which, if you go out of your way all across America to find a lawyer less credible to represent you about some heartfelt thing, to go to Michael Avenatti to represent you and make your case, you can understand where people would treat that very seriously.
Those kind of charges, why wouldn't you go directly to the police? Why wouldn't your attorney? There's no statute of limitations in Maryland on rape. That's correct, I believe. Yeah. So I can't imagine how you could handle this in a way that puts less weight on the actual magnitude of that kind of allegation.
Marie, you understand the skepticism, not just from Republicans, but from average folks who look at this and say, why is it happening one day before a hearing? Why is it happening in the last days after this is all done? Let's be fair and balanced here and listen to Senator Blumenthal, who's talking right now.
Very believable and credible allegations that you're making against.
Are there any strategy coming from Democrats? Do you anticipate anyone ceding time over to email?
I know of none of my colleagues who are going to cede any time. We are elected to do this job regardless of who the witnesses are, what this topic is. We're the ones who vote. We ought to be asking the questions. Any of my colleagues who hide behind a special prosecutor really are failing in their constitutional
Would you
duty.
consider ceding time to any of your Democratic female colleagues on this side?
The people of Connecticut elected me to do my job. I'm not ceding time to anyone. In fact, I'm going to be asking for more time, if anything, because 5 minutes is totally inadequate to ask the kind of questions that go to issues relating to excessive drinking, sexual assault, and other issues that are very important here. At the core here is credibility.
Thank you,
Senator, are questions about the judge's sex life or drinking habits fair game today?
Every issue that bears on credibility, including sexual assault, excessive drinking, personal relationships, past records, are all fair game in this inquiry.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut was Marie talking about how there's skepticism about the timing of all of this and when it comes out. You know, Christine Blasey Ford said she wanted to be anonymous. It was leaked. But before it was leaked, she hired an attorney, took a polygraph, obviously thought maybe she was going to be coming out at some point. You don't do that unless you believe that you're going to be public. I guess there's just a skepticism that I hear that this is all orchestrated.
I think there's a skepticism on both sides, because I hear skepticism from my Democratic friends, from my independent female friends who say it feels like Republicans are trying to do a box-checking exercise. And when you hear Lindsey Graham say, no, these others aren't credible, he hasn't even heard the hearing yet. So I think we are in a place right now, Brett, where there's so much skepticism on both sides. This is not a court of law. This is the court of public opinion. There are politics with the upcoming midterm underline all of it. I think Democrats do believe, and I hate to bring politics into it, but they do believe that this issue could be a winner for them come November, that Republicans already seem like they may be overplaying their hand. They may not be taking these accusations seriously. So the skepticism about this is rampant. And I think what happens in the next 5 or 6 or however many hours we're here will tell us a lot about how this process will play out and whether there will be a vote tomorrow or whether this process will go on longer.
If this goes forward, Kavanaugh gets through it and is confirmed, the Democrats, it seems to me, have won in a number of ways. One is they've got a number of members up for re-election from states carried by Donald Trump. And this is a tough vote. Voting no on this nomination is easier because of this, right? So this gets, and of course, if this all gets pushed later, it's better still for them because they don't have to cast a vote at all if it gets passed, somehow gets pushed past the November election. So they win on that count. They also satisfy voters in their party who are in a rage about Donald Trump. This is further resistance to Donald Trump, so they get points for that. So they've got some ways to win politically here, even if they lose on the outcome of the nomination. Republicans, on the other hand, it seems to me, are in a somewhat different position. If they lose on this nomination, it can be argued, as I guess we talked about earlier, that their base will all be fired up to turn out in November. My view of that is there'll be so many disappointed Republicans if they don't get this through that a lot of people will stay home in disgust.
Chris Starwald, Rush Limbaugh the other day said if this does not go forward, if Brett Kavanaugh is not voted on and put on the Supreme Court, that there's just going to be immense disappointment and they're not going to show up at the polls. Your thoughts?
It depends on how, and it depends on why, and it depends on timing. I don't think this isn't binary in that way that Kavanaugh confirmed is good for Republicans. Kavanaugh taken down to defeat is good for Democrats. I don't think that matters. I think what matters a great deal, and I think this is, by the way, also true for the Me Too movement in general. We have been in this phase for a long time. This is a test moment, a test time for this that's going to decide what direction this is going. It's going to decide about the credibility of this. And I would hope that these Democratic senators who are doing this, I heard Richard Blumenthal there with real bloodlust. You could really hear it, that he wanted to go get Kavanaugh. And you can hear them gearing up for this. And if that's what this turns into, if it turns into this Torquemada moment and they put him up there and abuse him and rough him up all this time, it will not do wonders for the Me Too movement. I promise you that.
Yeah. I think
Senator Blumenthal has his own credibility.
And his comments, I thought, were quite revealing in terms of the scope of the questioning. He basically is going to call out every single thing that he ever did in high school and grill him on it based on what he just said there. Let's bring in Mike Emanuel and get his thoughts as we watch Rachel Mitchell, who has entered the room, and she is sitting there getting ready to begin the questioning. Mike.
Martha, good morning to you. I can tell you outside the hearing room, security is much tighter than we saw during the original Kavanaugh hearings. It is clear that they are trying to avoid some of the shenanigans we saw in terms of protesters getting carried out